I redid my bathroom, and it came down to time to do the trim and caulk. And my wife sent me a link for your product. And I said, honey, come on. You're talking to Macho Man here, all right? I can caulk the bathroom. You ain't got to worry about nothing. I'm here to tell you, Greg, it looked like I used a concrete pump to apply that caulk. And I have never lived it down. We barely sold that house, and the memory haunts me forever. How did this all start, Greg?
Caulking has been around since I think the mid 1800s or something like that. They used to, the word caulking came from the material they put in between the ship staves when they built a ship.
Okay.
That's caulking. That's where that started from. And, sure as shit, as soon as somebody could put some formula in a tube, give you a tool to apply it, that solved all the world's problems, we thought. Instead, it's been a perpetual nightmare for, and I don't mean to be sexist, primarily men, because we always think we can do anything. No problem, I can handle that. And it's the great equalizer, I feel like, in that will knock you off your pedestal when you try and do a caulking job and you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah, it absolutely will, man. Very well said. So where did this start with you? Give me the inception of this. I know you were a contractor before, if that's right. So kind of take me back to that stage and lead into that aha moment. Where did this come from?
The magic aha moment.
Yeah.
Well, inside of this brain pan, there's a very small walnut-sized brain. And once in a while, my neurotic tendencies help me instead of destroy me.
Awesome.
So I was a custom home builder up in northern Minnesota for 25 years. And I don't know why, probably because I have ADD, but any caulking project I saw, I was just so disappointed in. It's like, this is horrible. Here's a $900,000 house with a $3 caulking job in the bathroom.
Uh-huh.
It always frustrated me. And in 2008, the housing market, at least up here, tanked 100%.
Yeah.
Literally overnight. So I was literally laying in bed one night contemplating bankruptcy. That's the truth. Thought we were going bankrupt. And for some reason, this idea popped in my head. What if I came up with a caulking alternative solution?
Wow.
And I envisioned in my tiny walnut-sized brain the profile and how it would work. The next morning, I got up. I actually went out to my garage. I custom made a piece of what I envisioned just to see if it could work. And it worked. That was kind of my aha moment. It was literally the next morning, I applied this product, and it's like, this could work.
Now, sounds like you just kind of chop together a prototype real quick. Was that similar to its current form, or was this something completely different?
Very similar, oddly enough.
And how did you prototype it that fast? It sounds like you rolled out of bed and kind of threw some stuff together that you already had.
It's just kind of the way my brain works. It's definitely a handicap. Wherever I go, I look at various items and I actually envision how I would redesign it.
Wow, that's awesome.
I mean, it's a curse. It's not awesome. It is a curse.
I hear you.
Because I'm analyzing everything all the time. It's just the way my brain works.
Yeah.
So anyway, I've got the profile. I did my little test and it worked. So now I'm fired up. It's like, I might actually have something. And I started reaching out to various PVC extruders in the state of Minnesota. And I think I called 4 or 5. Of those 5, 4 of them said, once I told them I was an inventor, they did not want to talk to me.
Inventors suck, right? Nobody wants to talk to us.
They're a black hole.
Yeah.
It's a huge black hole for anybody else on the other side of the fence.
Right.
And
it's been an eternal struggle that we've dealt with all of our guests. They're getting frustrated that they're not getting responses, and especially in the USA. The USA is tough. China, they're chomping at the bit for your business, and even then there's friction. In the U.S., They're fat and happy with 3 or 4 contracts. They may have a government contract down the road with the military base, and they just, an inventor? Yeah, fold up your stuff and go home, kid. That's kind of their mentality.
Totally.
Yeah.
I think society kind of views inventors as kind of a nut job back in a dark room.
Well, just the word inventor is kind of fanciful, right? Marcus said that best. It's kind of, you're a tinker, you're farting around, but you're not serious. You're not going to place a $30,000 order. You're just an asshole.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of truth to that. And you know as well as I grant that out of 100 inventors, maybe one will get a patent. And out of that one, maybe 0.5% actually get it to market.
Now, why do you think that is?
It's just the odds are so strongly against you as an inventor because, and I'm assuming you're going down the patent path.
I've been there, done that, but I'm going through it with my guests and new friends on Discord every day.
Right. There isn't a lot in this world that hasn't been thought of.
Right.
So, the whole patent thing is a kind of the great equalizer. That's going to knock a lot of inventors off right there. If they're going for a patent. If they're just going to come up with a product and go sell it, that's great.
Yeah.
But at some point, someone's going to take it if it's successful.
Yeah. So it's
back kind of a weird double-edged sword if you do or if you don't.
Well, I agree with everything you're saying. It is difficult, and I think up to this point, I think this space has been poisoned. I think it's toxic. I think it's controlled by a few governing bodies, not literally governing, but companies who kind of swallow up inventors, take them on a roller coaster ride, whether that's, hey, we'll license your idea, or we'll teach you how to build a sell sheet, or we will pitch this to big companies and they'll cut you royalty checks. And it's all kind of hogwash. It's very much hogwash because you haven't done any work. You haven't proven anything. You haven't brought anything to market. There's not a lot of companies that are going to waste their time with your napkin drawing or your provisional patent or your issued non-provisional patent. I don't really care. Now, the other half of what you said was everything's already been invented. And I completely agree. Down to the bare bones, you can argue that the wheel was just an innovated stone, right? We're iterating on crap over and over and over again, and it's fatigued. There's 400,000 patents issued every single year by the USPTO. So I think you're right. Everything has been thought of. It's just, do you have a workaround? Do you have a way to get your foot in the door?
Yeah, you just said kind of the magic word, the workaround. Let's go back to the wheel. So let's just, for fanciful sake, pretend that we could attempt to patent that. Let's say it was patented back in God knows when. And then here comes Greg, who's got another wheel concept that he wants to get patent. Well, a lot of people don't understand that I can get another patent on that wheel, but it's not going to be for the whole wheel. Very few patents are for the entire structure 100% unless it's a pretty specialized piece of equipment. So, but maybe I invented a new spoke design that's stronger and less friction. That's something I could potentially get a patent on. Mm-hmm. And that's assuming that my invention idea is this wheel with these special spokes. I probably can patent that. So I'm not going to get a patent on a new wheel. I'm going to get a patent on a new design part for that wheel.
Gotcha. Now, you said patents are the great equalizer. So in your opinion, is it hard to get a patent? Is that why it's an equalizer? Why did you phrase it that way?
I think it can be very challenging because the USPTO is going to search worldwide for patents that would affect my application. Mm-hmm. And it's oftentimes very convoluted with the USPTO. Sometimes they focus on some designs that really have nothing to do with your product.
Right.
But their thought process, they're looking for any specific nuance that might be tied to that. Mm-hmm. So it might force you to rethink your patent application and maybe redesign some parts or pieces that are novel and unique. But you may have to go down that process. And for us, it was surprising how many other patented flexible trim strips are out there. There's a lot.
And did you find this out the hard way when the patent or when your attorney kept coming back to you and finding prior art or the USPTO? What I'm getting at is you're talking about all the friction that can come in, but my personal experience was I had already been selling torque straps for 8 months when I filed for non-provisional. I knew where all the snakes in the grass were. I knew where all the prior art was. I knew where I had been threatened to get sued already, so I knew who was out to get me, and I knew how to work around them. Was your experience similar, or did you start from day one, I got to get a patent before I move forward?
Good question. We got a patent very, very early.
Yeah.
And again, it was somebody else that was paying it forward. I could not afford to go to a legitimate patent attorney and pay for a patent back then. It was 15 years ago.
Right.
But he saw my drive and my energy on this thing, and he just agreed to help me out. I'm so glad I did that. Today we've got, I think, 12 patents.
Wow.
And these patents are sometimes on very minuscule little details, but that's what makes our product work.
Very cool. I recently put out a YouTube video. I just want to briefly explain to you what I taught in that video. Obviously, things are done a little bit, the principles are very, very much the same. This industry does not change very much, but the attitude and the marketing mentality changes a lot. And the video I put out recently was, if you have an invention idea for this new nozzle to apply spray foam more smoothly, just go on Google and Amazon, search diligently. If no one else is doing it, at that point, I don't want to call it fair game, but I think that's reason enough to start on the process. And the reason being, if no one's selling it, even if there is a patent out there somewhere that you don't know about, no one's using it. So theoretically, you could buy them out for $10,000, the cost of their patent, if you will. So just go into the next step and then go into pricing, look into manufacturing, look if it can be done, and file a provisional patent. It's going to go through either way. And then go after sales. And then at the 10-month mark, when you're ready to file non-provisional, you'll know a lot more about that industry. You'll have identified the snakes in the grass. Granted, yes, you were a little reckless because you started spending some money. However, you could have an action plan to go to that guy who invented it in 2005. His patent's about to expire, and you just got to buy him out of that last year of his patent. I guess that's kind of my abrasive way of going through it. It's more of a just get into it type of mentality. Does that throw up red flags for you, or what do you think about then versus now?
I think a classic character of an inventor is like the nose guard on the front line. Just say hike, and I'm running. And I think a lot of inventors are very, very determined people. I think they tend to believe in their ideas, their dreams, and that's good because you're going to need that energy.
Yeah.
Because you are going to get beat up.
Yeah.
But some of these ideas you just mentioned, if you run across a patent that's your product, that's not the end of the road.
No.
Like you said, what if it's about to expire? What if they've never used it? What if they would love to get a few $1,000s out of it? There's a lot of ways to play that game. And the longer people like you and I are in the game, we learn. We learn tactical advantage. We learn processes and we learn strategy, which the patent world is kind of like a chess match.
Yeah.
Both parties are making moves. And if you're better than the other player, you're going to get a better strategic move that'll advance you.
That's very well said. Now, how often has the patent drama come up for you? You've had a much longer career than I, much more to defend than I. You're talking about this chess match. Personally, I have not dealt with it really at all other than one unfounded threat. What has your experience been?
Well, like I said earlier, there are other flexible trim products out there, and a lot of these have the term caulk strip is a pretty common term for a piece of plastic with adhesive on it. So we knew those were out there. 3M had one. Homax, Red Devil, Miro, Magic, all these companies were selling very cheap caulk strip products out of China.
Okay.
I mean, horrendous products that were nothing like ours. And I think they were selling them because there's no competition.
Sure.
Nobody else had a better mousetrap until we came along. And, my goal in inventing our product was to create a true caulking replacement product that looked like the perfect bead of caulk,
Right.
but also looks like potentially a nice piece of flexible trim that maybe you need a certain color to match some tile, or you want to use it as an accent color. Like, say you want to pinstripe your bathroom with black Instatrim. I mean, you can do things like that.
That's really cool.
So our goal was to come up with a product that far exceeded what the Chinese had.
Gotcha.
And we were very, very successful at that until they copied our products.
China did, or
Yep.
Is it any American brands or just Chinese brands?
Just Chinese brand.
Do you still have better ratings than them on Amazon, or more ratings?
We have, I think, 16,000 reviews now, maybe more.
You got a lot.
So, yeah, they can't touch us, but the Chinese manufacturers are really good at getting into Amazon and saturating the marketplace.
Yeah.
So when we started on Amazon maybe 10 years ago, we were the only flexible trim product on Amazon Marketplace, which was awesome. We owned it.
Yeah.
We were making so much money, we just thought we'd arrived. Our time was here. And, advance another 3-4 years, there's probably 80 to 100 Chinese products on Amazon right now.
Uh-huh.
And there are products that are almost an exact copycat of ours.
Interesting.
So they're good at, and this is to their credit, they're good at finding ways to design a product that is not going to violate my patent.
Ooh,
I think they've got some pretty smart people looking at things like that. And it is a big deal. It's very competitive. When the Chinese came out with the products that look just like ours, our revenue dropped 60-70% that year. Because they dominated the space. They took over our first page listing location. And it's been a long fight to get back to that front page. But the impact was tremendous, and it just about put us out of business.
What year was that?
Probably 2020.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that kind of tracks. That's when China was doing a huge push to get into Amazon. Yeah. Well, that's very interesting to hear. And it is a product that is, I wouldn't say easy. I have no idea how to manufacture it, but it's an easy enough concept to comprehend to say, I could sell that too.
Right.
So
it's actually complicated as hell. We don't have an exciting product, I recognize. Well, that's not the right word. We don't have a glamorous product.
Okay.
It's not like a pet rock or whatever the latest and greatest is on TV. It's more form and function.
Sure.
And the physical properties of creating something of two different materials, two different densities, and making everything work, I have so much respect for engineers.
Yeah.
I think the average person would look at our product and go, well, it's just a piece of plastic with glue on it.
Uh-huh.
Very, very true, but it's much, much more than that, especially on the adhesive side.
Yeah.
I've had to learn to become an adhesive expert.
We've run into that a lot. I had Sean on the podcast back on like episode 36, 37. Same thing. He's got a peel and stick to protect your pants when you're caulking. And it was an adhesive battle. It was back and forth. Yep. Well, let's try the one off the tampon maxi pad. Okay, now let's try the same adhesive as this. And he's going back and forth. And I asked him, were you technical about adhesive? And he's like, no, I'm just throwing stuff at the wall and seeing if it sticks, literally. But you said you really dove into the chemistry of it, if you will.
I have had to the past 5 years. But yeah, starting out, I just, find me something that sticks.
Sure.
And we'll test it.
Gotcha.
And we've had so many failures over the years with adhesives.
Well,
I mean, adhesives really make the world.
Yeah. Yeah, they do. And it's a double-edged sword. They're so convenient, but there's such a hair trigger. It's such a fine line between failure, right? Finding the right adhesive that's not expensive, very, very challenging, especially in the USA.
Yes, it is. And you just have to you have to learn and educate yourself about every detail of your product, as you know.
Yeah.
I mean, you got some kind of a stretching mechanism on your toe straps.
Yeah, it's a spring, a literal steel spring.
You know, where did that come from?
Well, originally it was a bungee. So
okay, right, yep.
The logic was I'm strapping down my dirt bikes in the back of my pickup truck, punk 16-year-old kid, and everybody hates using ratchet straps. They're wadded up, they're covered in mud. Dad doesn't know how to use them, neither do I. And so we always had cam buckle straps, which is the kind you just pull to tighten. And those don't work on anything except for the front end of your dirt bike. And I said, well,
they're kind of a joke.
They're kind of a joke. And I said, well, why the hell is this working on the front end of my dirt bike? Well, I realized the suspension is giving you dynamic tension that moves, something to grab onto, if you will. Okay, let's put the suspension in the strap. Well, I was a 16, 17-year-old punk kid at that time. So life went on, but at age 30, COVID hit. It was around 2020. A lot was changing. I was looking at how I made money, which was climbing telephone poles. I realized that wasn't too efficient. And so just like you, I woke up that morning, I went in the garage. Well, I went to Home Depot rather, bought up some bungee, bought up some straps, got a sewing machine, and by golly, it worked. You know, I had my wife outside. I'm like, hey, just strap this chair into the bed of the pickup. This is kind of cool. This kind of works. I can use this.
That was your aha moment, wasn't it?
That was the aha moment. The spring came a year later. I made them for a year out of bungee. People don't trust bungee. That was the first thing they made fun of, and it was hard to manufacture. Everything changed when I switched to springs. It was 3 times faster to make, and people really wanted to buy it at that point. So, again, not trying to talk about me, but that's the story of the spring, and it goes along with what you're saying. You have your first iterations that you can sell, but you're going to find their shortcomings, and you got to improve on it if you really want to stay in that 4 to 5 star ranking, if you will. That's the short story of Torque Strap.
That's I think the best part of this whole process of being an inventor. You are as qualified as anybody else on the planet to come up with an idea.
Absolutely.
And I think we have gotten so far away from free thinkers in this country on some level.
Absolutely.
I think a lot of people feel like everything's been invented. Why try?
I've heard that many times.
And for me, that was kind of the beginning of a long-term adrenaline rush. Because, something that came out of my little brain pan, I'm now selling. It's not my idea was probably not in anybody else's head, just mine. And I took the risk, put my head down, and just gave it my all. I think you have to give it 110% or it is not going to work.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of inventors give up too soon. It's extremely hard to get a product to market.
Yes.
Extremely hard. And, you picture like the Lowe's rep that you need to talk to. He's probably talking to 1,500 other people.
Oh, yeah.
At the same time.
Oh, yeah.
And that space is so valuable, it's really tough to get his attention, his or her attention. To me, that's been the most challenging part, is getting into sales platforms. But, to back up a little bit, that's why we started with e-commerce. We started on Amazon literally because Amazon, as much as they get ripped on, they provide inventors a sales platform that creates an even playing field.
Absolutely.
And that's a big deal. I don't ever hear the news talking about Amazon providing that. It would be interesting to see a study of how many new products by inventors Amazon has helped launch.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah, I can't imagine. It's immense.
Probably millions.
Yeah.
But nobody gives them credit for that.
That's true. That's a really good point.
If it wasn't for Amazon, I don't think we'd be here.
Well, it certainly was a inspiration to me to know that, well, if nothing else fails, I can get it on Amazon.
Right.
And screw retail. I'm almost 4 years into the journey, and all along we've been having this thing. We've been putting retail up on this pedestal, up on the hill that we're marching up. Finally, about 6 months ago, I put my foot down, told my two guys, we no longer care about retail. We will revisit this in 2026, 2027. I don't care. We're wasting so much time, so many lost emails, so many missed phone calls, so many circle arounds that lead to nothing. I don't care about retail. We can sell as much as we want on Shopify and Amazon, up to about 15 million a year. That's the cap I kind of predicted. And then when we want to sell more, we'll go into retail. But when you try to do both at the same time, you're shooting yourself in the foot.
You get up to that sales level, somebody is going to come and buy you out.
Well,
they're going to want your product, and that's the end game for all of us.
Well,
most of us.
We all dream of an exit. Well, nobody wants to be selling on their deathbed. You gotta cash out at some time, and then that's another thing we can talk about is designing a business that will sell. Nobody wants to buy a restaurant when the owner is the head chef, because that means if I buy the restaurant, I got to be the head chef and work 12 hours a day.
Yeah, no, these are all parts of a maturing company,
right?
And what you just said is very pertinent. We had a company come in and review our books, I don't know, 3-4 years ago, and there were a lot of problems, a lot of errors, a lot of mistakes. They cleaned it up, which was great, because my end game within 5 years is to sell out.
Yeah.
And we certainly want to grow bigger before that happens. We want to maximize our return if we can.
Yeah.
But it's a I don't know what you call it. It's a constant race. It's always a race to that mythical ending, which is never as great as I think people envision it to be. For me, if we got bought out and I no longer worked, I don't know what I would do.
Well, that's the thing. You got to really take a look. Dude, inventors come to me all the time. I have this really good idea. I'm either going to license it or sell the patent. I'm like, well, first of all, you're not going to get more than $7 for the damn thing until you've done $100,000 in sales. And by the time you get to $1 million in sales and it's finally worth a valuation of maybe $250,000, $500,000, well, you're having fun and you're making money. They buy it out. And yeah, your wife gives you a big hug. You pay off the house. Maybe you buy a boat. And then you're caught between the moon and New York City, just you and yourself. No, you got no baby. You lost it all. You gotta start fresh. So yeah, I like the way you said that. It's this mythical being, this end goal that's never quite what we want it to be. Did you have an impression in your mind in the beginning that, well, I'll just invent this, and one day soon, Richard Gere will come sweep me off my feet and give me $3 million and that'll be it? Did you have that vision, or were you more realistic?
No, I wasn't realistic at all. I mean, that was the carrot for me in the beginning.
Sure.
It no longer is the carrot. I truly do not care if this ends with me being very wealthy.
Uh-huh.
I much rather prefer this to end with me being validated. This product is good enough that XYZ bought it.
You mean to tell me you've been doing this since 2011 and you're still looking for validation?
Yeah, that's kind of the way I roll.
Yeah.
Validation, proof that my idea was good for the world. That's a big deal to me.
Was
the fact that I could come up with an idea that potentially the entire world would have some interest in at some point.
Well, I don't know anything about your numbers, but I can tell you from 15,000 Amazon reviews and I don't know how many website sales, you guys have done umpteen millions in sales of this product and made a lot of people's lives easier. What's left?
What's left? Come out with new profiles, different shapes to solve different problems. We are working on some light illumination products that utilize our profiles.
Cool.
LED type stuff. We're looking at in the future maybe applying a wood grain to our trim products as an option. But there's so much out there. There are so many applications for caulking that could be improved with a more of a permanent solution.
Right.
I mean, it's literally everywhere. But there's one of those big opportunities that, as an inventor, you probably don't have the staff to pursue.
Mm-hmm.
And that's always been our problem. It's my wife and I, we're equal partners in the business. We have another small percentage partner, but if we had a sales rep that would rep Instatrim, that would be a big score. We've never found one. So a lot of these things we've ended up doing ourselves, which is fine, but it's inefficient. And to go out there and go after some of these companies is critical for us, because we want to expand our commercial marketplace for our products.
Yeah.
That's a bigger marketplace than the consumer. But getting into these commercial marketplaces is tough as hell, because all these entities have been using caulking forever. They've got a crew that probably does the caulking for them, specialist, and to get them to switch to another product is difficult at best.
Oh yeah.
We're making headway, but they're very, very slow to change, as you know.
So you sell on Amazon, and I'm assuming on your own website right now. Is that the main channels?
We have a few others. We are on Lowe's and HomeDepot.com, that's pretty small potatoes. You're not going to do gangbusters in that arena, but it does help. We got into a regional big box store up in the Midwest.
Okay.
Which was a big score. I guess I can say their name. It's Menards.
Great. Love Menards. Had one in my hometown.
Yeah. And that has been an interesting process. It's kind of hard to explain, but you're working with another partner, Menards, and they're not going to give you much help. Because, again, they're dealing with thousands of vendors.
Yeah.
And they just don't have the staff or time to hold my hand and say, okay, this is what you need to do. So, once again, here's another environment where it's a little bit of trial and error. What works, what doesn't.
Interesting.
What marketing should we use? Should we do some colorful graphics on the shelf space where our products are? You just don't know. You can burn up a lot of money so fast. And, the margins with any big box store is probably shockingly small to most people. But you're betting on the long game, which is volume.
Yeah. How many stores is that contract good for? Is it one store or multiple?
No, we're in all 340.
340 stores.
Yeah.
How often do they order from you?
Usually every couple months.
Wow.
They'll issue us a purchase order. I wish the volume was a lot higher. So we're trying to grow that space. But that's another one of these big things we put on the pedestal. If only I could get into retail.
I know.
Well, the grass is not greener.
No.
It may not be a good business decision to get into retail.
Yeah.
We've been so successful just with e-commerce.
Right.
During COVID, we were a $4.5 million company.
Woo, nice.
And this is Amazon.
Right.
So don't feel like you've got to get into a big box store, because if you do, they are going to beat the hell out of you because they have to.
And what annoys me was the dicking around, like you said, on packaging and display. And, well, what's your marketing strategy, Instatrim? Are you going to run nationwide syndicated commercials? And you're like, what the hell are you talking about? Well, and they're saying, well, we need the product to move. We're not buying it to collect dust. And half of that's on you. You think, oh, it's on the shelf, it'll sell. They want to know that you're going to be on the hood of a NASCAR to guarantee these sales or whatever it is.
There's truth to that on some level.
Well, it's what I tell new inventors right now. If you're seeking retail, dig two graves, because it's a brick wall.
I like that.
It's a brick wall, and I thought about retail. I obsessed over it like I told you, for a couple of years. My guy is also obsessed over it up until 6 months ago. If I had just focused on e-commerce, I'd be in such a better place. I would have wasted so much less money on packaging, fluorescent colors, jumping through hoops, and not just domestic retail. We've had stores in Australia like Bunnings. Oh, yeah, mate, if this was just in a fluorescent color, these are really popping right now, mate. And you're like, oh, okay, cool. I'll sample that up, or I'll run a small batch, or you can't, because there's no guarantees. My mentality...
Everything is so expensive.
It's so expensive. My mentality now is grow so big they can't deny you, to where they're never going to beg, but you have the money to say, okay, Lowe's, we'll do you a short run in this type of packaging with this corner cap display that you want. We'll front the 75 grand to get that project going, and we'll try it. But because we're a $10 million company, we have the money to do it. But thinking you're going to start doing that bull crap from the beginning, you're going to live off of loans. The bank's going to make all the money. Your employees are going to make all the money. The vendors are going to make all the money. You're never going to get paid.
No, you are at the end of the rope.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how many times my wife and I have foregone a paycheck out of our business because we needed the cash for marketing.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, cut off our head to spite our face. But there's no shortcuts. You are the last one to get fed.
So how are you marketing now via how do you drive people to your e-commerce and then convert them? What is the marketing vehicle?
We do a lot of social media, which I don't like, but it is a necessary evil because you can get in front of a lot of eyeballs.
Yeah.
And we all, you got to admit that the name of this game is getting eyeballs, people to see the product, because I assume when people see your product, they probably buy it. It's new. 3%. It's novel. It makes sense.
3% of people who go to my website make that sale, make that purchase. So is it everybody? No, but you got to I try to drive 1,000 people to my store every day. And that's my guarantee that I'm going to get 3 people to order per every 100. So, 30 orders. And if I do good and if I do upsells, my average order value will hopefully be close to $100. That's a very good day. That's kind of a minimum day. We're trying to do much better through the holidays. But yeah, to your point, we got to drive traffic.
Yep. That's a good average purchase price.
And it takes a while to get there, and we can get into that. But I want to talk about marketing though. So if you don't like social media, how do you manage leveraging it?
I don't. We have an in-house staff person that is in charge of that takes care of all our social media. They place videos and things on, YouTube and various places and promote those. Social media is never been super successful for us.
Yeah.
That's why I use the term necessary evil.
Yeah.
This is another instance where I think people view social media as, I'm going to come up with an idea, I'm going to put it on social media, I'm going to be rich.
Right.
In a couple of weeks.
Right.
And the reality is probably the opposite of that. You've got to do, various different things. We are starting on a campaign next month where we're going to be running a commercial on our local news station, KARE 11 News. Mm-hmm. So you will see our commercial during the news in the mornings, afternoon, and evenings. We've never tried this before. But we're going to try to get more eyeballs, get more out in front of people. And I think for me, I always envisioned this, it would have to be a national campaign, that's just my ignorance. A, we couldn't afford it. B, anywhere we run ads is good for us. It's brand awareness, it's sales, it's just building up that brand so people recognize it better.
Of course.
So that's a big campaign for us coming up. We just did an influencer campaign about 3 months ago, where we retained above average influencers that you have to pay $5,000 to $7,000 each.
Yeah.
And that did not perform as well as we had hoped it would.
No.
But again, it's brand awareness. That's out there. That's doing its work without us doing anything.
Yeah.
It's in our website. It's on YouTube. So the long-term effects of that, we have no idea, but it will be beneficial for us.
Well, let me ask you this. You said it's work without you doing anything except paying for it. And by your own account, it didn't quite have the return on investment you were looking for.
Right. So once everything's paid for, contract's done, those influencer videos are still out there running.
That's good. And how are
That's what I meant.
I got you. So it's a passive marketing structure that's going to stay in perpetuity and, quote.
Right.
Okay. So the influencers publish these videos on their personal accounts with lots and lots of followers. That's the logic, right?
Yep.
Now, let me ask you this. What's going to happen with those videos is, let's say Jorge posts and his video, it does really well. It got 7 million views on Instagram. What happens with the algorithm once the system is done with it, it's just going to kind of stay at 7 million for the rest of its life. It'll get found if people are searching for it specifically, but it's not going to continue to have that quote viral broadcast push to it. So why not take the better performing videos from that campaign and run them as meta ads meta ads that are getting views every single day because you're pushing it every day, and then it has a call to action, brings them to your website or to Amazon and so on and so forth. Have you done that?
Yes, we have. I should have gone further with my explanation, but yeah, we certainly have monetized those videos.
Got it.
And I don't remember what else I was going to say about that. So we've got the influencers, we've got the TV commercial, we've got social media, emails.
Yeah.
Email campaigns have been extremely successful for us.
They are.
And that's just, past customers, past interest, all those emails we get when we run like a 20% off of the coupon promotion. Those emails, when we do an email blast with a promo, the return, we call it ROAS, return on ad spend, is up around 7 and 8.
Woo.
Whereas our ROAS on Amazon, running Amazon ads, is closer to 3 to 4.
Right. Yeah.
So that has worked well. So how do we expand that? I don't have time to work on that this week. We'll talk about it another time. That's the classic scenario of a small business like ours. Great ideas, and then you drop on the floor and you never get back to them.
Right. Yeah, it's tough. Well, let me tell you what I'm preaching to people now, and you tell me, what I'm doing right or wrong or what your thoughts are on it. But when I have a new inventor, we talked about the swipe and wipe earlier. He sticks it on his pants and keeps them clean while you paint and caulk. What I tell people now is start all 4 social media platforms. Start shooting vertical videos. I don't care if you like it, don't like it. There's lots of ways to do it. But again, you're scrappy, you're an inventor, and you're ambitious. Pulling out the camera isn't a huge ask.
Right.
Post these videos on each platform, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, as much as you can, 2 times a week, 3, 5, whatever. Personally, I do 5. And then after a month, take a look at these and see what videos performed well. We just had Sean. He's like 58, 59, not really, it wasn't used to being on a camera. And just yesterday, he's like, hey, guys, I got a video with 45,000 views and counting. This is a
That's
guy.
Awesome.
And all he did was do a little fast motion of stick it on the pants, swipe it with the paintbrush, rip it off, pants are clean, right? Easy money. Then what I tell them is, okay, so those videos did great. They took off. You got a lot of emails. You got a lot of website traffic. Maybe you got sales if your product's ready to sell. Now take that video, bring it to Sergio, who's in our Discord, and have him take that and a few other well-performing videos and just run meta ads on Facebook and Instagram with that video, and then run Google ads to help retarget the people who visited your website but maybe didn't purchase. That's the system I've been using, and it didn't start well, but I pretty much have a guaranteed ROAS of 5 all the time.
That's good.
So any penny I put into marketing, I know exactly what I'm going to get out. I will never do a TV commercial. I'll never do radio. I'll never do anything printed because there's no numbers. There's no data. There's no ROAS. And it could be good. You just don't know. And I hate gambling. I go to Vegas and I stand in the corner. I'm that kind of guy. So what do you think about that method?
Well, first of all, you're an inventor, so you're gambling every day.
You're damn right.
I mean, it's the purest form of gambling in my life.
Yeah.
But, every product is going to find its own sweet spot.
Yeah.
And what you are talking about is a great place to start. Mm-hmm. Again, social media is like Amazon. Everybody can get on it. Everybody can be creative. You can pay to run ads. And, let's be honest, a lot of this stuff doesn't get any traction. Mm-hmm. But some of it does.
Right.
And this also adds to your brand awareness. You want your brand plastered everywhere.
Right.
Social media, Google, internet, search. You want to be in the top search results. And having that coverage, even if that social media does not provide you with a lot of sales, it's still brand marketing.
Yeah.
And to be out there and always be out there, I think the consumer gets a security feeling out of that, hey, these guys are not fly by night, they're legit. Mm-hmm. And as you continue to build that brand, like, you are also, mm-hmm. you keep coming up with new ideas or concepts to do so to expand that marketplace. Maybe your products are something that NASA wants for the space station. Mm-hmm. An easier tie-down strap. Nobody knows.
Right.
Nobody knows unless you stick your finger into that hole in the dike and see what happens.
Well said. Yeah.
I mean, we're always finding new opportunities for our products. We got called 2 weeks ago by probably the world's largest plane manufacturer over in Europe. Mm. We have no idea what they want, but they sent us a request. They sent us an NDA, and we'll see.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of opportunities like that for products that are not strictly DIY consumer.
Got it. Okay.
We can play in the commercial field or the consumer field. You could too. You can play in the consumer field or a commercial division. Uh-huh. I mean, there's no reason why, these companies that just buy a ton of straps wouldn't consider your straps and make the upgrade.
Yeah.
It's safer. It's quicker.
Right. We've had those talks. We've even sent a half a pallet to an Air Force base, just one sergeant who had he had a budget of $5,000 he was allowed to spend, right? So he dumped it all on our straps. And that stuff happens. It's just, is it sales every day? No, it's sales whenever they feel like calling you back. And I don't like that.
Exactly. We just got into the GSA.gov website through a partner.
Okay.
And this is a website that only federal, state, city, national parks, U.S. Forest Service, that's where they buy products because it's discounted.
Okay.
But again, they're not going to order a 10-foot roll from us.
No.
It might be 5,000 feet they need.
Right. So
the sales, I'm sure will be less than we're used to, but they might be a lot bigger.
Gotcha. Yeah, absolutely. I think they will. Well, that's interesting. Well, look, you're made in the USA. I got to go back. I'd be doing a disservice to the listeners if we didn't go back to, let's talk about the stage after you prototyped it in your garage to, you called the 5 PVC extrusion companies, and they kind of laughed you out the door. Where'd you go from there?
Well, the 5th one welcomed me down.
Wow.
We're manufacturing in Minnesota. That was important to us. You have to make a decision early on where you're going to manufacture your product at.
Yeah.
And for me, it was really important to have it USA made.
Yeah.
That's just me. Mm-hmm. And in hindsight, we're really glad we did that because with all these problems with, the shipping problems from China the past few years, we maybe wouldn't have survived that. Sure. If we couldn't get product for 6 months, we'd be screwed.
Yeah.
So having it local, yes, it costs us more. Mm-hmm. We know that. But we're much better able to control the quality and make quicker decisions when there's changes to be made. And it's only an hour and a half away. So we can drive down there and watch the manufacturing process and help with suggestions to make things more efficient. Mm-hmm. That to me far outweighs the discount from China if we went down that road.
So I 100% agree, and I'm jealous with you. I'd love to have that kind of contact. I do think, though, the common misconception is, oh, well, even if it costs twice as much, I'll make it in the USA. But what I run into is it doesn't cost twice as much. It doesn't cost 3 times as much. It costs 5 to 7 times as much in some cases.
Wow.
So,
well, you've got a product that is a little bit more extensive in manufacturing.
Every product is different, right? Well, I feel like yours might be because, like you said, 2 different materials sistered together with glue adhesive and a smooth finish. We'll get into that in a minute. But yeah, with my product, it was easily 7 times more money.
Wow. Yeah, that's a lot. I looked at our product as we're just squirting PVC out of a machine.
Right.
The costs for that in the U.S. are going to be similar to China. China is going to get ahead on the labor costs.
Yes.
Because their labor costs are much, much less. But for us having full control of our products and being only an hour and a half away from where they're made, for me, is huge. But I do recognize that, a product like yours, I totally get it. And I would have that made in China because you have to.
Yeah. Yeah. Where do you think the line is between products that are friendly for U.S. manufacturing and not? For me, I feel like plastics are kind of a go in the U.S. because we can get molds, acquire molds, inject, we can extrude some assembly. But when it comes to really raw materials that we just don't deal in every day, like, I'll give you an example. Everybody says manufacture in Mexico, manufacture in Mexico. Okay, so I call up 4 Mexican manufacturers. They say, yeah, we can do these straps, no problem. I say, okay, where are you going to get the hooks? China. Where are you going to get the buckles? Yep. China. Where's the nylon coming from? China. Okay, and then you're going to web it in your mill? No, we don't have a mill. We'll get it pre-milled in China. Like, oh my God, I'm adding a middleman to my Chinese product. This can't happen.
And you need to be aware of that. You need to understand that.
Yes. And that's what people don't get. They think, oh, well, it's made in Mexico. Damn it, Nate. 3% of that made in Mexico. It's assembled in Mexico. And now you're paying for it to ship twice.
Yeah. Yeah, that's you better do your due diligence when you're getting into those discussions. If you add another middleman, they're going to want 10 to 15% at least.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you afford to give that up?
Right. Right.
I mean, that there is a double-edged sword. Should we have a sales rep on staff full-time that we can't afford? Or do we do what we can ourselves? And most of the time we do what we can ourselves, and it is not very efficient and it is not very effective. But for us to find an employee and pay him $60,000, $70,000 a year to be our rep, that's not happening right now. So we just do the best we can with the tools we've got. I do most of the cold calling and reaching out to people, and I'm talking mostly commercial entities. That falls in my lap. I love doing that. I love to present our product to people.
Yeah.
But we're missing the boat on a lot of stuff, but you can only do so much. There's only so much time and money, and you just need to do the best job you can with what you got.
I'm a little shocked, I'll be honest, that you're this far into the game, you've done this many millions of sales, and to you can't justify, an average salaried employee. Do you think that you have trouble letting go of tasks or what?
No, I think it's more of, when the Chinese copied our products, that affected us and continues to affect us a lot.
Yeah.
So our revenue is almost half what it was 5 years ago. But that was during COVID. I mean, COVID, there was nothing we could do wrong. Everybody's stuck at home playing on the internet.
Yeah, yeah.
But, we thought that was the new norm.
Right.
Little did we know that after COVID ended, it would plummet and it would stay subdued, I think, even to this day on some levels.
Interesting.
So it's just, there's so much you don't know, and there's so much you never will know. Right. You need to be able to adapt. You need to be able to make decisions, and you need to keep going.
Right.
I mean, it is like a football game.
Yeah.
Every time you're hiking that ball, you're going to get the shit kicked out of you. And, that Hail Mary pass, that's a 1 in a million shot.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, what do you think?
It happens. It does happen. I could talk to you in 6 months and you could say, yeah, we got into the federal government and they're ordering, 10 million straps to send out to all the parks around the country or something. I don't know.
Right.
Those are the Hail Marys. They're tough to get.
So what would you say consumes the vast majority of your day? I know it's a lot of little things, but what's the one thing that's like, if I could just get this off my plate, I could develop new products or whatever it is?
Emails. Managing emails.
Receiving them or sending them?
Receiving them and responding to them. That's most of my day.
Well, man,
I'll get 60 to 80 emails a day.
Oh my gosh.
And a lot of them are problems with a vendor or problems with a border crossing shipment into Canada. There's a million things that pile onto that. And again, you only have so much time. So what do you outsource? What do you try to do yourself? What can you afford? Et cetera, et cetera.
Gotcha. Yeah. I dealt with the same thing for sure. And, you and I were raised in two very different eras as far as product development. I was raised in the era of do what you do best and sub the rest. And I was also raised with the guidance via podcast, YouTube of your time is valuable. And if you can multiply your income by getting people to do those tasks, you can expand your horizon by quite a bit. And so in the first year and a half, I hired Steven at $60,000 a year. He's making substantially more now. And he took over customer service off the bat. That was like, okay, you got to do this. I can't think about this one more time. You're allowed to come to me once a week when you got a real brain twister that you can't figure out. Okay, cool. And he took that and ran with it. That gave me the freedom to develop new products, and it gave me the freedom to shoot new videos and focus on marketing. I got to believe you can find somebody very trustworthy, especially in Minnesota, that would happily work for $42,000 a year. And, you can do what you want to do. Maybe you're more passionate about cold calling and get more of that done. I mean, what are your thoughts? I feel bad. You've been in this game a lot longer than and I have I'm going to run into a lot of oh shit moments that you've already been through. Maybe I'm just too flower-colored glasses, but I don't know.
Well, I should clarify a little bit about the paycheck thing. We decided to forego a paycheck for most of this year. We wanted to put the money into marketing. We need to grow.
Yeah.
We need to get to that next step on the ladder. So we looked at it more as, what's the maximum amount of fuel we can get going here and start working on some of these campaigns cautiously.
Sure.
That's why when the influencer campaign didn't provide a bunch of revenue, that was very, very disappointing.
Sure.
I mean, we felt like we could certainly get a ROAS of 2.
Yeah.
That's what that means is ROAS means return on ad spend. So if it's a 2, that means for every $1 you're spending on marketing, you're getting $2 in sales. Mm-hmm. That's how we look at that. Mm-hmm. So it was really more of a major marketing thrust.
Yeah.
To get all the fuel into the marketing department, and for a while not in Betsy and my pockets.
Right. No, I hear you. And look, even though I pay my guys well, I'm without a paycheck right now too. I totally get it. It doesn't mean that, hey, I got enough money to pay them and blah, blah, blah. We always have to shift and sway, give and take. My big heel right now is I tried to order $500,000 of inventory for Christmas.
Sure.
But I'm trying to do that when we're doing like $50,000, $80,000 a month in the slow months of late summer. So going from a small income to ordering $500,000 doesn't quite make sense. You have to sacrifice somewhere. And the idea is there will be a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. So it's always tough.
I don't think any of this makes sense to the average person.
No.
I mean, the friends we have that we talk to, they just kind of tilt their head a little bit and go, you guys are nuts. You're truly nuts. And I explained to them that every morning I get up, I'm throwing that marble on the roulette wheel.
Right.
Is today going to be red or black?
Yeah. Yeah.
And people don't grasp it. I mean, a common comment made to us with our friends is, "Oh, you guys must be rich.
Right.
You own your own business. You got this great product. You got patents. You just must be so wealthy."
Yeah.
And I don't even try to explain that anymore. I just say, "Yep."
Well, money just becomes an arbitrary number when you're running a business.
It's our measurement tool.
It's your measurement tool, but it's abstract in a business because profit and loss statements and all that stuff, it's not, people hear millions of dollars and they picture millions of dollars. They picture the briefcase. You and I picture I hope I can show $200,000 profit on my profit and loss at the end of the year so that maybe the bank will give me another $500,000 loan. That's what we're seeing. They're seeing the big number.
That's a totally different game.
Yeah.
Getting money.
Yeah.
That's a toughie. That's probably the toughest part of our business we've experienced the last 15 years is getting working capital.
Yeah.
It's a classic case, small business, husband, wife team don't show much for profit.
Mm-hmm.
If any, on some years, there could be a loss.
Yeah.
And it's just, if this country did one thing with whoever is next president, I don't know why we can't do a low interest loan for small business.
I'm with you, man. I've yet to found it. I know people get these ones, but it's always got to be an SBA loan under very specific circumstance with 3 years track record, or there's always some intangible piece of it.
Yes. And as a small business owner, a lot of times we don't have all those pieces.
We rarely have them all.
I mean, I take our tax returns into the bank and they go, "Oh, you had a loss 2 years ago and you made $10,000 last year?"
Right.
Unless they really dig into it and learn why, a lot of times they'll just say there's no way.
Right. Yeah.
You got too much debt. You don't have enough collateral. It's ever since the Dodd-Frank Act in, I think, 2009 or 10, that cut off the working capital supply for small business, I feel like.
Interesting. I had no idea.
So that's been a really big challenge for us and all small businesses. Keeping enough fuel in the rocket to keep going to your destination can become a full-time challenge.
I'm assuming in the beginning, like I did, and I'm assuming here that you went with the mentality of, I'll just make the profit, or I'll make the margin I need, whether that be 50% or whatever, so I can be the price leader, and then I can and sell a lot of volume. What happened with me was I was buying a 2-pack for $10, and I thought, well, I'll just sell it for $24.99. Subtract $6 or $7 for shipping, but I'm still almost doubling my money. That's better than any IRA out there. That was my ignorant mindset.
And you're spot on.
Well, what I know now is, unless you want to live off of loans, unless you want to not pay yourself, unless you want to just make a cash tornado that really never stops to where you can grab the money, I now aim for like a 7, 8x multiple. Now I'm buying my straps for $5 and selling them for $40, and people will pay it.
That's awesome.
That's
awesome.
That's the only way, because people think it's selfish. People think it's rude. I was selfless in the beginning, and if I stayed that way, no one would ever get a safer product in their hands. So I had to learn to aim for that high margin, command it, and justify that high cost too. Now, a lot of times that means a little bit more marketing spend, better pictures on Amazon, better videos, trying to go viral more often, bringing in a media guy to help you edit all these videos you're cranking out. So much goes into it. However, the point I'm getting at is, because a lot of listeners, they're hearing your story and they're thinking, well, if that's the case, I'm just going to try to license it. I'm not going to start. What I would recommend to anybody starting now, aim for a very high multiple. Aim for a 4 or 5x multiple. Buy it for 10, sell it for 50. Buy it for 10, sell it for 90. I just had a young kid on the other day. He invented this plastic device. He's making them for $1, and he's going to sell them for $24.99. He's got a 25x multiple on his cost. And so I'm like, well, that's great. You can run insane ads with that and still even if your price gets cut down to $10 after you pay for ads and shipping and blah, 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 you're looking at a 10x return on your investment. So that's what I would preach to anybody starting out now is don't be humble with your price. Granted, your product sucks because it's your first iteration. It blows. But get used to selling at a high price. It's going to teach you a lot of things. It's going to teach you how to make better copy, make better images, make better arguments for why they should buy it. And look, you can always bring the price down. It's very hard to bring the price up once people kind of know you for a low price. That's what's tough.
Very tough. And I think it's also important to point out that, establishing that high price from the beginning will help you later on. If you are successful, others are going to jump on your coattails pretty quick.
Yeah.
And they're going to start selling things for a lower price, whatever.
Right.
So if you've got that high price built in, you're in a really good spot, versus if you got a product that you make for $1, you're selling it for $1.50. And here comes the competitors.
Yeah.
And, they're selling it for $1.50. You're kind of screwed.
Oh, yeah.
And it will happen.
It'll happen. And I think the hope is we'll take my case. I like to be really transparent with the audience. At some point, somebody is going to come in. They're going to find a workaround of my patent, and they're going to get into the e-commerce space. And I don't like to just focus on Amazon because I do half on my website and half on Amazon. So if Amazon crashes, I still have some income. It's not nearly as much, but I have half of it. But they're going to come in and they're going to do what I'm doing for $24.99. I still have the headroom to compete with them. If I have to, I can bring my price down, kind of meet in the middle to like a $34.99. I could bring it down to $24.99, probably have to lay somebody off and do a little bit more work myself. But now I'm competitive. I have that headroom, and I know I have as good, if not better, pricing than them. Well, close. If they're straight from China, that's a different story. But I know I have better pricing than them because I've been working at volume for 5 years. I'm ordering 3 shipping containers at a time. They're starting out with 0 reviews. So they're not going to come in my territory and do what I do better. They may be
but they are going to be a fire ant on your ankle.
They will. Absolutely.
You're going to know they're there. It's going to hurt.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how fast that process can happen.
So if you had one piece of advice, what would be a contingency plan or a backup plan for new inventors?
Well, I think the IP is a critical part of this.
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't have IP, you have no protection.
Mm-hmm.
And there are companies that look for that. It's amazing the software out there that you can purchase to analyze a competitor's product on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they can kind of nail down your sales and everything.
Yep.
But it's going to happen. It's going to be tough. It's going to be painful. Hopefully they don't take you out of the marketplace, because then it's game over. So if you got the profit margin to continue to be competitive, that's a perfect scenario.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got a question for you, Grant.
Okay.
If I came to you and said, I'll buy 100,000 kit or 100,000 straps from you, and I'll give you a 13% profit on those, would you take that?
No.
Well, if you're going to go into big box, that's where you end up.
Interesting.
That 10 to 15% range. Unless you got a product that nothing is like it in the world, that's different. But if you got a product that there's other options available, you're going to be in that very, very low profit margin.
Interesting.
And we do that in hopes of building up volume.
Well, yeah, everything makes sense. You asked me, and at my particular stage, I order 10,000 straps at a time. So I only trust my manufacturer to make 10,000 straps at a time. If I asked him to make 100,000, he'd be way later than he promised. They might bring in a whole new production line or 3 that aren't properly trained. So this goes back into all the risk and all the hoops we're jumping through for these big orders. You are at a stage where that makes more sense. You're used to that kind of volume, or you have the time to stockpile it, or you have the lack of shipping delays like I do to stockpile it. Me personally, that makes no sense. And then looking at the margin, I'd rather do my 10,000 units and sell them at a 60% margin than 100,000 at 13. Just to say we did it.
Yeah, those are decisions that only you can make.
And every product and every company is different.
Yep. Yeah, very, very different.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have a lot of customer support issues. I would assume you don't.
Typical, but I wouldn't call them issues, just tasks every day.
We average kind of a high return rate on Amazon, but that's also a result of if the consumer returns a product on Amazon and calls it defective, the shipping is free.
Right.
So Amazon has created this, I don't know what you would call it, but they're removing listings off their site if your defect rate gets higher than 1%.
Right.
And it doesn't take a lot of consumers that are fraudulently returning your products, claiming they're defective when they're not, to start to affect that. That's a big frustration point with Amazon.
Have you lost a lot of listings?
We have had 2 or 3 listings at risk over the past couple of years, ever since Amazon started enforcing the defect percentage rating. And we've tried to explain to Amazon, this is why this is happening.
Right.
But it doesn't matter.
Right.
But there's pitfalls everywhere you turn.
Yeah.
Constant.
Yeah.
Nonstop. That's really the core of owning a small business. You're more of a fireman than anything else. You're putting out fires every day.
Yeah. Yeah.
That never ends. But I enjoy that. I ask my staff, any customer that calls up with a problem, forward it to me. Because I want to talk to them. I want to understand in detail what went wrong.
Yeah.
Was it our instructions? Was it our product? Was it just consumer ignorance, which is 99% of it? But my goal when that phone call is done is to have a very appreciative customer, even if I have to send them out free product to replace the old one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because, the cost of our product to do that, $2, is it worth it to send that out and make that customer satisfied? You bet.
Sorry, let me fix my camera for you. I kicked my
cable
out. All right. It's a different camera, but we're still there. Well, I love that, and I completely agree. I'll say this, though. I told Steven, anytime you have a customer service issue, just apologize and send them a single strap to replace their defective strap or whatever it is.
Sure.
And at the end of the week, I get kind of a report. Okay, what went right, what went wrong, and all the customers were happy, and all that happened passively without me having to worry about it. I sympathize with your time. You're very important, and I do feel that somebody could carry that out, really efficiently for you. Yeah.
And the consumer today appreciates so much that somebody calls them back.
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing what some people say, because I think the consumer today is tuned into this customer support. You're talking to somebody in India or some other country, and, for the owner of the business to call somebody and say, what can I do to help you? That's a big, big deal.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you also, you build customer satisfaction that way too.
Very, very, very important, man. Well, look, Greg, this has been amazing. I think we've given a lot of knowledge and insight. We've given people a lot of things to look out for, preventative maintenance in their business. So I really appreciate your time today, man.
Yeah, hey, this is fun. Let's do this again. And Maybe next time we do it down there in your studio, maybe we have a little caulking competition on camera.
Yeah, for the manhood challenge. I love it. That's a great idea.
You get the caulk gun, I get the Instatrim.
Woohoo! Let's do it.
Sounds good. Well, this has been fun. I really appreciate this, Grant. And if you want to throw out my email, if people want to call and ask me questions, they're always welcome.
Absolutely. I will put that in the description. And go. What is that email for us real quick?
It's Greg, Greg, at Instatrim.com.
Awesome. I'll put that in the description. Thanks, Greg.
Awesome.
All right.
Well, you're a rock star, Grant. You're doing great.
Thank you, Greg. And I appreciate all your time today, your insight, your help, your perspective. And we've all learned a lot, man. So without further ado, I'll let you hang up and I'll wrap up the show, buddy.
All right, Grant. Take care.
Bye-bye.